panelists, distinguished dignitaries, and fellow participants. I request all our panelists and moderators to take their seat on dais. Please, sir. Please, Rojeka, sir. Please. So, it is my great pleasure to welcome you all to this thematic session, One Corridor, Many Connections, Climate Resilience Energy System. We are grateful for your presence and engagement in this important dialogue. As we gather here today, we are reminded of the critical role that power transmission plays in India's economic growth and sustainable development. The power transmission network is truly the backbone of our economy, enabling the ambitious target of achieving 500 gigawatt of non-fossil fuel-based capacity by 2030. Achieving this vision requires advanced planning, robust coordinations, and the integrated development of the intrastate as well as interstate transmission network. However, the development of transmission infrastructure in India is a most of challenging. There are so many issues such as right-of-way constraints, land acquisitions and compensation, forest clearances, and coordination among multiple state and central agencies often pose significant hurdles. In this context, the concept of one corridor, many connections, climate resilient energy system emerges as a true game changer. This approach focuses on co-optimization of power transmission corridors through vertical integration, sharing of common right-of-way, retrofitting existing EHV transmission lines, and aligning transmission development with other linear infrastructure like railways and roads. Such strategies not only enhance efficiency but also strengthen resilience and sustainability. As a token of our appreciation, we are delighted to present our dignitaries with a copy of the book Why Bharat Matters, authored by Sri S. Jaisankar. This thought-provoking work explores India's unique strengths and its evolving role in shaping the global narrative, offering valuable insights into the country's foreign policy, economic growth, cultural heritage, and vision for the future. Now I request our Honorable MD Jhatco Sri Upendra Pandey sir, Gujarat Energy Transmission Corporation Limited, to kindly welcome Sri Dilip Rozkar Saab, CEO CTUL, and present him with a copy of the book. Sir, please, once again, I request, sir, to welcome Sri P.C. Garg, sir, Principal Advisor, NSEFI, and former CEO, CTUIL. Now I request Sri Dangi, sir, our Superintending Engineer, to kindly welcome Sri B.S. Bairwa Saab, Chief Engineer, Planning Project and Planning Division, CEA. Dangi Saab, please. once again, sir, please welcome our Sri Anada Sahab, Joint Director, GRC. Now I request Sri Ghatilia sir, Executive Engineer, our transmission, to kindly welcome Sri Akhilesh Pathak sir, ED Project Management, Power Grid. Sir, one again, I kindly request to welcome Sri Avinash Nimbalkar Sahab, ED Projects, MSCTCL. Sir, sorry sir, once again I request sir to kindly welcome Sri Arun Sharma sir, CEO Rezonia Limited. Thank you very much, sir, for your warm clapping. Now, with a great pride and respect, I invite our distinguished mentor, Sri Upendra Pandey, sir, to enlighten and inspire us with his words. Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon. I welcome all respected dignitaries on the dais, a panel of experts of different field. I cannot imagine a better panel than this. Experts coming from CTU planning, coming from different project developers, ISTS, intrastate, private players, regulator, and looking after technical aspect, CA. I think this is a wonderful panel. I thank all of you for taking pains in coming here and joining this wonderful session. This subject, Mr. B.M. Shah has already talked on that. There's no point in repeating it. Rather, we are eager to listen them. But I feel this is really need of the hour when we need to think of having some common corridor. My idea is to find out some way out to make it convenient for laying transmission line, particularly for our high expectation for renewable integration. Gujarat has targeted integration of 100 gigawatt, contributing 1/5 of India's target of 500 gigawatt by 2030. To achieve this ambitious target, you can understand a lot of transmission lines are required to be laid. What really takes away our sleep for transmission developer is the only ROW issue. Otherwise, we can do everything, but ROW is really killing not only us, it is killing the entire sector, and it is one of the biggest challenge here. I'm sure this would be deliberated, how we can think of having a common corridor. Not only corridor, how can we think of having a common infrastructure. There are multiple linear kinds of projects. It's not only transmission. There are various linear types of projects. Railways, highways, all these projects are there. When we are planning to have so many transmission line passing through same corridor, will they pose some technical challenge? Will they pose some other issues? I'm sure that point will also be addressed here. I'm finding it very difficult in Gujarat, which is one of the most prosperous state in the country, to lay transmission line. When I see this sector, this area, Kutch and Saurashtra, where huge potential of about 380 plus gigawatt lies here, RE. Presently my consumption here is around 10 gigawatt, and in coming days by 31 it should be crossing 12 gigawatt. Another sector, south part of the Gujarat, where already dedicated freight corridors has been laid, where bullet trains are being laid, where expressway has been created, and in that narrow strip, lot of multiple ISTS lines have also been laid. We are also entering into that area in a small portion. ISTS, intrastate, all these lines are there. This is another place where progress is taking place very, very fast. Power requirement is I mean, tremendous there, and it's increasing day by day. Already we have crossed more than 7 gigawatt in that small area, and in coming days, it's going to be 1.5 TES by 3032.
Hello.
So how to address it? Where demand is so high there, where generation doesn't exist much over there, potential of generation doesn't exist much there. So again, line would be required to be laid from this area, potential area, to that area, creating double kind of problems. So how we can, unless we think of doing this, probably will not be able to find out where to lay transmission lines. These experts, I am sure, will throw some light on this and will way towards find out some solution, and collectively we'll collate it, and hopefully in coming days we should be able to implement it through government policy. I wish all the best for grand success of this session, and without coming on the way, I am eagerly waiting for you all to start it. Thank you. Thank you.
You want?
For today's discussion session, the moderator is our Roskar Saab from CEO CTUI. I request him to commence the session.
Thank you very much.
Hello.
May I kindly request those who have forgotten to switch off their mobile, not switch off, keep it silent mode. Those who have forgotten, they kindly do that, so that all of us are fully deliberated.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah. Thank you very much for giving me the session for moderating. I know it's a very tough job, as Pandey sir has told, that we have a diverse panel of experts. In fact, in the transmission supply chain, almost everybody is represented, right from the planner to the state transmission provider, the public sector undertaking under central government, the private player, and finally the regulator, who always have a last word. So I'm looking for this an exciting session of discussion on one corridor, many connections for a climate resilient systems. Just to set a context, I would say that in past 75 years since our independence, we have came a long way from a disintegrated small systems to a really national grid which is robust and allowing transfer of power. In fact, at the start of the century, a very important radical change had taken place for India, and that was the Electricity Act 2003. At that point of time, the installed capacity of India was of the order of about 1 lakh megawatt, and now today we have 5,10,000 megawatt. So in 25 years, we have achieved 5 times what we have achieved in after the independence up to the year 2000. It has been actually supplemented by almost all the stakeholders. The states has been the foundations they had provided, and then the central sector companies like NTPC, NHPC, Power Grid, and other players, and then the private players. So we had now reached at a juncture where the subject of the topic of the today's discussion takes very most important place, because as Pandey sir has very rightly said, in the transmission, in fact, our presenter also has told that transmission is the backbone for any economy to grow. So almost all buzzwords have been captured here. The right of way, I will tell that the transmission system suffers from a syndrome called NIMBY, not in my backyard. So we want Shahid Bhagat Singh, but not in our family. He has to be in somebody else's backyard. So given that situation, it is utmost importance that whatever right of way we are using, that should be used with the most judicious way. And in that context, when we want to grow Like the Gujarat state itself want to have 1/5 of the contribution in the 500 gigawatt target of government of India. That calls for really a great level of thinking and great level of coordination among the various organizations. So to start with, actually, we have got about 60 minutes or 60 to 65 minutes, because discounting for some time for the question and answer session from the audience, and some time for wrapping up the discussion. So I have got six panelists. So we can allot 10 minutes to each with one of them, maybe in a round of 2 or 3 questions. And as I have said that they are representing a diverse set of stakeholders. So So the views of each of the participants does hold that much of importance. To start with, therefore, I'll ask Mr. PC Garg, who had himself worn a number of hats, from the field expert, then to CTU expert, now representing a very important National Solar Energy Federation as a director. So, Garg sir, what is actually, from your point of view, um, how critical is now we require to have a shift from project-centric transmission planning to corridor-centric transmission planning?
Thank you. Thank you, Rujikar sir. Thank you, Pandey sir. And good afternoon, everyone. I started my career in power grid as a substation engineer, then transmission engineer. Then I went to CTU, the hot seat on which he is sitting today. And then I am associated with one of the federation who normally looks after the generation developers. So certainly wherever we work in the present situation, we always talk about them because their problems comes first. But I'll not do that. Earlier, everyone knows that we used to make transmission system for projects. As he said, project centric. Korba thermal is coming, so a transmission system is planned from Korba to the intermediate station, then from there the load points. Then subsequently more and more generation was coming in a given area, like in Vindhyachal itself, Sasan was coming, NTPC was there. Then some of the system was planned dedicated, and then some of the system was planned a bit common for both or for many. Subsequently, we enter into this renewable. In renewable, unfortunately, the initial thought was we should have the distributed RE. So wherever RE is generated, we should consume there itself. So no transmission was required, no big transmission was required. But later on we found that our targets are very large, 500 gigawatt non-fossil, and the resources are concentrated in few locations like Khavda in Gujarat, Kutch area, and then Rajasthan, Jaisalmer, Wadla area, and a few parts of southern states. And other states, they don't have much of the spare land for this renewable generation, which requires a good amount of, good quantum of land. Then we started planning based on the potential. So transmission was planned for Khavda, say for 30 gigawatt, and then similarly it was planned for Rajasthan, like Bikaner complex, Wadla complex, and like that. And some corridors were planned, like we planned for the Leh also, from Leh Kathal, of course, indifferently it is being done. So the corridor were planned for a specific potential area. During this process, in power grid also, I saw a lot of problems. Everyone is talking about the ROW problems, in Gujarat, which is most progressive state, which is consuming the maximum load. Even in Gujarat, we found a lot of problems in making the transmission lines. And even in Rajasthan, where nothing can be done in that area, that barren area, the deserted area, even there, a lot of ROW is being faced by Power Grid and other developers who are making, or other transmission developers who are making transmission system there. Then, I think 1 year back, Pandey Sahab started talking about a common corridor. That since Gujarat requires, Gujarat has problems, more problems, so definitely the thought started from Pandey Sahab. And then we did some work, and now today we are discussing openly on this subject. I'll just tell that here views will be very, very different. We cannot have the cohesive views amongst us, because this is such a subject which is not for today, which is not for tomorrow. It is for many days after tomorrow. That means I am talking about 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. We have faced a lot of problems in transmission system construction. I can tell that land is limited, but demand is not limited. Demand will grow. Today it may not be there, but tomorrow it will be there. Because if our Honorable Prime Minister has announced that we will become developed nation by 2047, without electricity, you cannot become developed nation. There is, a simple formula is there, per capita consumption. You just take for the developed countries and multiply it with our population, and then work out the quantum. But that quantum is a future quantum. We cannot imagine today. So land is limited, demand is going to grow, but the land is not reserved for your transmission corridor, transmission lines. That the same land is being used by railways, same land is being used by infrastructure developers, the real estate developers, same land is being used by highways. For everything, the same land is being used. Tomorrow, when, the others will occupy the land, and that time, if you go for a transmission system, definitely you won't find land. And my requirement is now 765 kV and above. Now CTU has started working on 1200 kV. Now one can imagine the corridor required for 1200 kV. That much of corridor you will not find even in jungles. So the time has come when today we should think about the transmission as a national asset, as a national infrastructure, without looking at load, without looking at even at generation. Because if you start coordinating between generation and load, you won't be able to do this corridor. I can give an example, very crude example. This university must have been built some 20-30 years back, I don't know. How many students are studying here today, and how many were there at the time when this was developed? Definitely this should have been developed considering today, not even today, maybe they might have considered 20 years after requirement that so many students will come here. Like when the roads are being developed, normally we don't do survey where how many cars are there in the city, how many people are going to use this road. But normally when road comes, I start thinking, yeah, good road has come. Now I should buy a good car because I have got a good road. So I will drive my own car on this road. So that's what I'm telling you, that when we make the system available, definitely the generators will also come and the consumers will also come. So considering all these aspects, to my opinion, common corridor with multiple connections. In detail, I think he may give me the time for another 5 minutes later on. I'll tell in detail, but to my opinion, common corridor is very much needed today, not to meet the load requirement of today, but to take care of future. Thank you.
Thank you, Garg Saab. Actually, you have tried to tell that the common corridor is a must today. Now, if we say that the common corridor is a must today, then there are two types of situations that we are faced with. One is the existing corridor, which are already densely occupied and densely populated, but still we have to supply power to the person who are staying in densely populated area also. And the other is the new corridor. So, as a transmission planner, I must tell about Mr. Berwa. Berwa has He is the person actually who pilots all the new transmission system that are implemented through under the ISTS. So, Berwa sir, what are the principles that should be followed for the utilization of existing corridor vis-a-vis the planning for the new corridors? Your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Thank you, sir. So planning, we generally consider three aspects. One is generation, how much generation, where it is coming. Another is demand, where demand is coming. And third one is system constraints. So existing system, mainly overloading comes on when some new generation is coming, or the demand has grown in the area where it was not envisaged, or demand has unexpectedly grown, or generation has come in some other areas where it was not thought of. So then existing system becomes overload. So when existing system is getting overloaded, we generally recommend reconductoring of the systems. That was regarding existing. Now coming to the planning of new system. So again, those three things. But now we have to think of planning in long term. But now planning is done. We are planning for 3 year, 4 year, 5 year ahead. And our transmission implementation itself is taking 3 year, 4 years because of ROW issues. So we have to think of larger long-term perspective. And that is true for both interstate system and intrastate systems. In interstate system, CTU is planning, they are preparing rolling plan for 5 years. But in states, most of the states are not doing the transmission planning up to 5 years also. As a CEA, we have the responsibility of coordinated planning. We have taken up with the states and we have completed resource adequacy studies, transmission resource adequacy studies for 14 states for next 10 years. So if we have planned for interstate and intrastate system, both sync together, then only we will be able to know where the common corridors are required. Like in Khavda area, most of the generation is there. But some of the generation need to be evacuated through intrastate system, some through interstate system. But if we don't have the planning together, so then again the issue will come that some corridor has been taken by ISTS, now there is no corridor for intrastate systems. So now, in summary, I want to tell about this. The planning need to be done simultaneously together. This coordinated planning should be there. All the stakeholders in planning should be consulted, where the load is coming, where generation is coming, and then long-term plans should have the implementation plan in short term also, and like that we have to execute.
Thank you very much. In fact, the underlying message that you have said is that there has to be coordinated plans. In fact, Section 38 and Section 39 bestows these responsibility on STU and CTU. And to my knowledge, as a CEO CTIL, I know we are meeting on regular basis for development of intrastate and interstate transmission system. But still, there seems to be some gap, and that gap is what actually we are trying to address today. Berwa sir has told about from the ISTS transmission point of view. Well, he is also responsible for the STU networks. But given the situation, given the fact that we have an expert STU, the person of the level of director available in our panel, sir, Nimbalkar sir, I would repeat the same question. What should be the principles followed for planning the common corridor for the existing congested areas and for the new corridors?
Hello, hello. Am I audible? Namaskar.
I think
गुड आफ्टरनून. लंच के बाद थोड़ी लिथार्जी आई है और टॉपिक भी ऐसे ही सीरियस है. सो रोजेकर सर हैज राइटली पॉइंटेड आउट द थिंग which will be the most important thing in planning in the next future. In Maharashtra, we have started laying the transmission line in 1960, and since 1960 we are laying the transmission line, but in last 6 to 7 years we are facing severe RW, most severe RW. Initially in Maharashtra the generation was on the east side and the load was on the west side. So all our transmission line corridor was from the east to west. Now suddenly the situation is changed, and due to Khavda and other developments, RE developments in Gujarat and Rajasthan, here there is no such demand. So we have to evacuate the power from the Gujarat and Rajasthan to Maharashtra and Karnataka. So suddenly north-south corridor requirement it has arisen, and you know this is the belt of severe RW. So what should we do? That is the prime question in this seminar. We had done one experiment in Mumbai. Here Tata Power sir is also there. We had one line of Tata Power which was carrying 100 kV line, and we had to lay the 400 kV transmission line from Kharghar to Vikhroli. So we have approached Tata Power, and we both decided to use the corridor for Tata Power also and for 400 kV transmission line also. So Tata Power has upgraded the 110 line, 110 kV to 220 kV, and we have also laid 400 kV transmission line in Mumbai. Similar thing we are also doing with the railways. We are using our existing corridor. We have one principle in Maharashtra. I think it might be in Gujarat also. I haven't studied it. In Maharashtra, when we plan for the new substation, 400 kV or 220 kV, or it may be 130 kV also, we lay multi-circuit line on multi-circuit towers for 3 to 5 kilometers, depending upon the severity of the ROW. So during planning only, we lay 5 kilometer transmission line. So now it is being used by the railway. The part of the corridor is being used by the railway, and we are using the common corridor, MSCTC and railway. So these are the few examples. But now there is a larger need, as Rosekar sir has rightly pointed out. Simultaneous study of STU and CTU is continuously going on. Now we are planning for the 10 years only, but as Bhairava sir has said, we need to do long-term planning beyond 10 years, maybe up to 2047, so that what is the actual corridor required for various transmission licenses, it will be defined. And once the corridor is defined, we can use the common land for construction of that corridor. Main transmission licensee, suppose JETCO or Mahatransco or any other main transmission license in the state, it can initially lay the transmission line, and depending upon the requirement, other transmission licensees can use that transmission line on the owner-tenant basis. They can pay the rent and they can use the transmission line, may it be long term or medium term or short term. I think that is the need of the hour. Now we are also having the sir from GRC. MERC has given one such decision that the asset will be with the original transmission licensees, and the user will pay the rent. Just like we are laying the OPW in our on our transmission lines in Maharashtra, we are laying 144 optical fiber cables, and we are using only 12 fibers. So remaining fibers we are giving to the other users So they need not lay the independent corridor. They need not lay the independent telecom wires and using the new corridor. So existing corridor and new corridor. So new corridor, I told you that this can be the way. And in existing corridor, I told you that we are having the vintage line since 1960. So the age of those lines are now more than 40 years, 35 to 40 years. We are now planning, we already planned some lines also, to convert single circuit on single circuit line to multi-circuit on multi-circuit MC line. We are using 6 circuit also monopoles for some vintage lines, so that those corridor can be used in future also by other transmission licenses. We are having RE potential in some part of the Maharashtra, southern Maharashtra, and load in the Mumbai and Pune region. There are multiple data centers coming up in Mumbai, Pune region. Green hydrogen plants of each 3000 megawatt are coming up on the coastal side. Where there are PHP also, pump hydrogen plants are also coming up. So to cater all the that load, we need to lay the transmission line from Marathwada to Mumbai. So that is a common corridor. So we are now planning to use this existing line by converting from single circuit to multi circuit by using the insulated cross arms, of course.
ठीक है sir. Nimbarkar sir has told. I think what he has told is his views is for existing one actually upgrading, utilization of the or sharing of corridor with the other infrastructure agencies is for the congested one, and for the new one actually a coordinated plan maybe for the longer time horizon that is required. I think on the same subject, I would like the views from Mr. Sharma and Mr. Akhilesh, that whether when we say that by using the common corridor, you see the right of way is nothing but a social and legal problems that are faced. So using common corridor will actually concentrate concentrate all the problems at one place, or they will simply reduce the opposition and the legal hurdles. Like what I mean to say is, if they are going to concentrate the problems, when you have legal problems and the social problems on different transmission lines, they are faced and handled differently. But if we bring them into common corridor, are we going to put all eggs into one basket, or the other way around for it addresses effectively the social?
Thank you, Mr. Rodekar. Hope I am audible. I think it's a thank you, sir, for giving all of us opportunity. And I think let me say a few things on the planning part. We are looking. To my mind, I think the planning is for 2047 and 2070. We as people in the transmission sector have a big responsibility, and the country expects us to do two things. One is net zero by 2070, which means every green electron has to reach its destination. That is one. And second is energy independence. $150 billion of oil, coal we import. That has to come down to zero, ideally. So I think these are the two big expectations on us people in this room and people who are associated with the transmission sector. And the whole planning has to go that way. I think in one of the discussions it was mentioned about 1800 gigawatt is required for 2047. I think we have to look beyond. It's no longer a balancing game between a generator and the load center. It is not. We have to look beyond. And we have seen how geopolitically oil and energy can take all the decision-making power from the country. So it's so important that we do look a little beyond. That's one. Second, coming to the common corridor, I think I've heard fantastic views from everybody. Every discussion on transmission, you rightly said, sir, is on ROW and land. And multiple steps have been taken, the guidelines have been changed, states have adopted those guidelines, gantry rates have gone up, and administrative supports have come by. DM, police have been supporting us. Communities have been taken well care through CSR and all. I think this common corridor is the next step towards debottlenecking the transmission, because the country will not tolerate us for a very long time. You go and put up a tower because you have 164, you are authorized to do everything. No, country won't tolerate that for many years. And the pushback has started coming from courts, coming from NGOs, from media. It has started coming back. And we will have to get our acts together. All of us will have to get our act together, have to be more organized, more planned, and that can only happen if we put common corridors in place, and it has to be made mandatory. Now coming to your question, will it make life easier or difficult? I'm sure it will make life easier, because at the end of the day, once we have identified a corridor, there's a notice which is available in the landowner's mind, and if we can get a right economic solution for it, I think renewable is the biggest example. The land in Fatehgarh, Badla area of Rajasthan, it had no economic value, but they came out with that lease model where people want the landowners who didn't earn anything for many years, they're suddenly getting 50,000 rupees an acre kind of for next 20 years. I think some kind of a model, if we can work out on the common corridor as well, and we make it mandatory for the developer to use it, because if you don't make it mandatory, then somebody will take a shortcut. जैसे टोल में होता है वो पीछे से चले गए गांव के रास्ते से, तो वो नहीं होना चाहिए. So it has to be made mandatory. One, it will certainly resolve many issues, because the opposition is building up. You look at Halwad, you look at this Balotra area, or you look at the northeast, the Bodoland tribal areas, controlled areas, look at Karnataka, Narendra and all areas. It's not easy to get ROW. And second point, sir, the difficulty level of acquiring a corridor is going to be big. It's not going to be small. The reason is because we are currently executing two projects, FBTL and BTL. So first we won that project, which is called package G, and then the Supreme Court direction came that the next package, which is F, has to run parallel to this, within 150 meters of the corridor, which means we have to actually acquire a 250-300 meter corridor instead of a 67 meter corridor, and build two lines which originate from the same point, terminate at the same point in Biawar. Now the difficulty level of doing these was much higher, and it was much higher. So acquiring a two.
That was the background for me to ask you. Will it use the legal issues if you have to have a common corridor, and will it be wider than what is required for one line?
Yes.
That was
Yeah.
So
I'm coming to the right point. So it will be difficult. Getting corridor will be difficult, and getting 2 kilometer or 2.5 kilometer of a stretch for many 100 kilometers is not going to be easy. But we will have to bear that pain. There is no other way. But this pain can become very attractive also for the landowner. It's at the end of the day they're losing their land. 2.5 kilometer, nothing can be constructed if it's a 67 meter wide corridor for 765. So we have to make it attractive. The way renewable guys have made it attractive for the landowner, I think on the similar lines we'll have to make it attractive. Maybe from one-time payment to a long-term payment, keep paying every quarter. Some mechanism has to be worked out, and but the country will be very happy, I can tell you, because the way currently it is going, everybody is opposing. You can't keep solving the symptoms every time. We have to solve the root cause, and the root cause is a right of way, and Brazil has done it. Brazil first clears the corridor, then they do the construction. So there are examples. Dedicated freight corridor is another example where they have identified earlier on that this is the need of the hour. So I feel acquiring will be difficult, but life post acquisition would be much easier. But plan and coordination, of course. Yeah.
So, Akhilesh, you being the head of the monitoring or so many number of times across the country, the rich experience of the field. So what are your views of putting all eggs in one basket or dealing them with other separate baskets?
Thank you, Razakar sir, and thank you Jetco and Pandey sir for providing us this opportunity to be here together on this vibrant occasion today. Taking cue from what Sharma Sahab said, I think Fatehgarh Biawar becomes the first example of unintended common corridor. Some kind of an crude example of fait accompli. But then drawing out something from what Sharma Sahab said before I build up my own thing, Acquisition or land acquisition by RE developers is a bit different issue. That is the only reason why it has concentrated in Rajasthan, where people had actually forgotten that they have a property in Rajasthan. They had all moved out of Rajasthan, and suddenly in last 5 years they have started looking for khata khatoni कि हमारी जमीन कहाँ पे थी, लोग भूल गए थे. Now they are getting back. It was very easy because the land was not being used that way. Similarly for Khavda, Gujarat also. It is only availability of unoccupied, barren, unused land which is good for RE. Unfortunately, it's not the case for transmission line, which is a linear project. So those, I think those two are very different. But the only thing is that those RE cannot prosper without this transmission lines getting executed. Second part, if I have to again stress, is why we need to go for common corridor is, as Sharma Sahab already said, we have to look into a horizon of 2047 and 2070. I think the entire process started with the sustainability goals coming into prime focus. 2070 is our target for net zero, and 2047 is target for Viksit Bharat. So I was just coming across a study by some center on electricity, environment and water, which says the installed capacity needed at the time of 2047 would be close to 2100 gigawatt, which is 4 times what we have right now, and a connected load of around 710 gigawatt. So things are going to be rising in that proportion, and to reach to a net zero in 2070, we are going to see a massive transformation and a many times growth in time to come, which we at present levels we cannot think or imagine as to what is going to be the chartered route. That is why all this planning is done by CEA, and we are looking into a horizon where how are we going to achieve that. At the present pace of transmission lines being constructed, where एक developer आकर के एक रास्ता पकड़ लिया, दूसरे ने देखा दूसरा रास्ता कौन सा है वो पकड़ लिया, और हमारे पास अभी सबसे बड़ी समस्या है कि all the projects are on least cost basis for the developer. Once we acquire the project, we have something in our mind, we are going to invest such amount, then the entire exercise is to in fact cut cost on that so that the revenues can be maximized. Talking about common corridors, I think that one point will have to be leveraged by the BPCs or by the planners, as to provide some incentive or some leverage for the transmission line to travel through such a route which will have least of ROW. Welcome, madam.
I think Pandey sir, it will be.
It's our pleasure, madam. Respected Jayanti madam, she is Additional Chief Secretary Revenues and represents Government of Gujarat. In fact, it was her idea. She coined, Pandeyji, can't we have common corridor, because you are laying transmission line here and there and making life difficult for everyone in Gujarat. So when she coined this idea, as Rojakar Saab said and TC Garg Saab said, last year we started this dialogue with CTU. Can STU and CTU together plan for 10 years, even beyond that, to create a common corridor? Thank you, madam, for setting tone that time, and that we are taking this session especially on this common corridor, and we have requested all experts from different field to join here today. I welcome Jayanti madam. And we may kindly continue. Akhilesh Pathak sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Madam, jitna der aap baithenge, it will be pleasure for us and it will be great. Thank you.
Just to brief you, we had just discussed about the necessity of having transmission corridor, and the speaker, Mr. Akhilesh Pathak, is Executive Director of Project Monitoring Department of Power Grid Corporation, he is expressing his views on the question that whether a common corridor will bring all eggs to one basket, or will it lead to creating more problem for the social and legal issues, or will keeping them separate will be better? Yes.
Thank you, sir. And incidentally, just before you came, I mentioned the same thing, that we transmission service providers, the developers are doing this sin of running the transmission lines haywire. Wherever we find a place, we just don't care as to who is the owner, whether the land is fertile or how useful the land is, that we just go and plant the transmission lines there. So this common corridor could be an enabler where we can identify a corridor which could be a little longer maybe, but we are not going to harm any of the farmers, any of the urban areas, and we can actually use a longer corridor, maybe leverage on multiple transmission lines traveling to the same corridor, and cause the least disturbance to ecology and harmony of the society. So towards this point that you talked about, Roseka sir, if you see near a substation, when the substation gets built and the first transmission line enters, there is some ROW, but nothing as big. But when we see a big substation getting extended and the second line coming and a third line coming in, for example, we have stations of power grid in North Indian like Agra, Pandey Sahab knows about it, how difficult it had become for us to complete this HVDC transmission line into Agra when we finally built it. I mean, for around 6-7 months, the entire work was stalled, and we could feel the pain in ourselves also, that we are actually hurting all those farmers around the substation. So, if you do it once, acquire a corridor, give them one pain, and they will be happy. But every day, if you keep on going, there is a line already crossed, and he has a field, and you destroy one side of his field, and then 6 months later, another developer comes and he says, I also have 164 and I want to pass a line through. It is then that you make life miserable for them, and then they react. So I think a common corridor, thoroughly, properly acquired, as on date, the Electricity Act doesn't provide for acquisition for transmission line. It is merely, it's not about acquiring a right, but paying compensation for them. The right remains with them. But if we go for proper acquisition with all compensation being given to the farmer, and this corridor is optimally utilized. It is not that a line comes and just line goes through. When the first line comes, the planning has to be optimal, that the line is to be constructed at the highest selected voltage level which is possible, providing a route for maybe 1, 2, 3 different voltage levels, utilizing narrow base towers to optimize the corridor, utilizing insulated cross arm to reduce the ROW. That way, when the planning is coordinated, the corridor is required, I am sure it is going to be a win-win situation for all the stakeholders, DSPs as well as...
Okay, so I think Akhilesh ji, what you want to say is surgical operation will be much better than having stitches here and there. So I think in between Nimbalkar sir has talked that they had shared the right of way with railways for a transmission line, and MERC has came up with the order. So Anada sir se mera question hai that what are your views on the sharing mechanism that has been given by MERC, and secondly, how well it gels in the current TBCB regime for the newcomer who is going to come. We will be happy if you throw light on that.
Thank you, sir. Namaskar to all, and thank you, Pandey sir. Namaskar to Jayanti Rao madam. सर, जब रेगुलेटर्स की बात आती है तो रेगुलेटर का पहला एस्पेक्ट ये होता है कि कोई भी चीज़ का, कोई भी कैपिटल एक्सपेंडिचर का एंड कंज्यूमर पर बर्डन कितना आएगा, वो रेगुलेटर का फर्स्ट पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू रहता है. तो ये जो कॉमन कॉरिडोर की अभी हम चर्चा कर रहे हैं, उसमें सबसे बड़ा बेनिफिट होगा ROW कॉस्ट का. दूसरा बेनिफिट होगा जब लाइन क्रिएट करना शुरू करेंगे तब उनका जो जेस्टेशन पीरियड होगा वो कम होगा, क्योंकि ऑलरेडी सारी लैंड का आपके पास पोजीशन होगा और एक प्रॉपर टेक्निकल मैनर से आपने डिज़ाइन की है तो एग्जीक्यूशन भी फास्ट हो जाएगा। जब लैंड की कॉस्ट, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर की कॉस्ट मल्टीपल यूजर्स के साथ में शेयरिंग करने की बात आएगी, तब सीटीयू की बेनिफिशियरीज भी रहेगी, एसटीयू की बेनिफिशियरीज भी रहेगी, टीबीसीबी के क्रिएटर भी रहेंगे वो लाइन एग्जीक्यूट करने में। उन सब के बीच का जो शेयरिंग मैकेनिज्म होगा वो एक रोबस्ट मैकेनिज्म से डिज़ाइन किया हुआ होना चाहिए, क्योंकि अगर रेवेन्यू शेयरिंग का प्रॉपर मैकेनिज्म नहीं है तो कोई भी एग्जीक्यूटर वो अपने आप को वो प्रोजेक्ट में नहीं इंक्लूड करेगा। दूसरा मेरा सजेशन ये है कि जब कॉमन कॉरिडोर की बात करते हैं तो हम क्यों इलेक्ट्रिसिटी यूज़र को ही, इलेक्ट्रिसिटी लाइन को ही इंक्लूड करें, क्योंकि लैंड इज़ अ प्रीसियस रॉ मटेरियल फॉर अस। सो वो लैंड के जितने ज़्यादा यूज़र होंगे उतनी उसकी कॉस्ट की शेयरिंग ज़्यादा होगी, तो पर यूज़र पर यूनिट कॉस्ट कम हो जाएगी। तो एक सजेशन मेरा ये है कि रेलवेज़ अगर पॉसिबल टेक्निकली है तो गैस पाइपलाइन है, टेलीकॉम सेक्टर है, हाईवेज़ है, सबको वो कॉरिडोर में इंक्लूड करके वो लैंड जो प्रीसियस रॉ मटेरियल है उसका हम मल्टीपल यूज़ कर सकें। दूसरा एस्पेक्ट ये है कि सारे कंट्री में हर एक स्टेट का एक रेगुलेटर है और एक सेंट्रल सेक्टर का एक रेगुलेटर है। सीईआरसी जो है वो सीटीयू के टेरिफ डिटरमाइन करती है, सीटीयू की परफॉर्मेंस को देखती है, और एसटीयू की परफॉर्मेंस को, स्टेट की ट्रांसमिशन लाइसेंसी को हर एक ईच स्टेट का रेगुलेटर देखता है। तो यहाँ पे एक सेंट्रल लेवल पे एक कॉमन पॉलिसी गाइडलाइन होनी चाहिए कि सपोज़ मैं टीबीसीबी की बात करूँ तो हम टीबीसीबी गुजरात में 250 करोड़ के ऊपर 100 करोड़ के ऊपर इन्विसेज कर रहे हैं, बाकी स्टेट है वो 250 करोड़ के ऊपर इन्विसेज कर रहे हैं। तो अगर कॉमन कॉरिडोर की बात आती है तो टीबीसीबी का जो डेवलपर होगा वो मल्टीपल स्टेट से लाइन निकलती है तो कौन सी स्टेट का रेगुलेशन को फॉलो करेगा, तो उनके लिए एक कॉमन रेगुलेशन होना चाहिए, पर्टिकुलरली कॉमन कॉरिडोर के लिए, जो कि सेंट्रल ड्रिवन हो, उसमें सारे स्टेट का से भी रहे और इस तरह से पूरी जो है व्यवस्था को फलीभूत किया जा सके।
Excellent, excellent. In fact, the underlying message is that we need to have a common regulatory arrangement which can address to the private licensee or the licensee which came through bidding route to predict the cost and bid accordingly. So I think almost all the panelists and are agreeable that there is a need for common corridor, and even if the common corridor will resolve the social and litigation issues to a large extent, it will be techno-economic also. I'd like to ask Mr. Barwa, sir, transmission line is a bridge between generation and load. Now, given scenario that we are the transmission planner or transmission system is just a bridge between generation and load demand, and generation being delicensed, wherein actually the investor himself decide whether to have and whether he will be able to make money out of it or not. So, what role do you see? What role do you see for the transmission planner for evolving common corridor vis-a-vis the demand that is a prime input, as you have said in your opening statement, that is required for the transmission. So, ma'am is here actually. She is chief secretary. So, the message should go that from where this should start. Of course, the transmission planner will be a biggest stakeholder in evolving the transmission corridor. But the input with regard to what are your views on that?
So, no, as I already mentioned earlier, that basic inputs are generation and demand for transmission planning. But now, if we are planning for the future, then we have to move out of this traditional philosophy of when the applications will come, then only we will plan the transmission system. So now we have moved forward for potential based planning. Now we are planning for potential. So in Gujarat, many areas like Kutch and Rajasthan areas where so much potential is there. So we have to plan on that for that potential. Then only we can find the common corridor. Otherwise, if we think that certain areas demand is not going to come in many years, or in some areas generation is not going to come, then which will be the common corridor? There will be no common corridor. And intrastate, interstate, both planning together for the long-term horizon, then only we can identify these common corridors. So the prime inputs of demand and generation will always be there, but we have to decide in which time frame we are planning. Either we are planning for 2047 or 2070, but for that time period we need certain inputs, especially in generation. For the renewable energy, we have at least idea of the potential, so we can plan now. But still, we don't have the exact locations, and for transmission planning, we need exact locations. So for that, we have to discuss with the relevant agencies. The STUs have to discuss again and again with the relevant agencies for generation and demand side.
I think Sharma ji want to add to that.
Thank you. I think you had asked what is the starting point. I think to my mind, the starting point is an existing corridor. There are many existing corridors in the country. Let's start to put a few identified existing corridors onto TBCB, and gain experience what we get from those. It's possible. You can do it in a quarter's time. It's possible, and I can tell you my personal experience where we were connecting Karnataka to Kerala. The Supreme Court very clearly said you can't open a new corridor. You have to use an existing corridor, and KPTCL has to finally agree to give the existing corridor. GED, the Goa, has to agree to give us an existing corridor. We said we'll do a multi-circuit, multi-voltage line. So I think the first starting point can be, and for Gujarat, we can look at a few corridors. We can put them on TBCB. Their private players will come in and see what best can be done on those corridors. By the time we plan for the massive big corridors as well, that can be a starting point.
Sir, Garg sir, everybody has, in fact, few of the speakers have talked about the, जैसे अनाडा साहब ने बताया that it is going to have a per user cost reduction if we have a common corridor. Then इन्होंने भी पाठक जी ने कहा, he has said that we are actually laying the lines without considering we have to reduce our cost of that train line. So the bigger picture is not seen. So in that context, my question is, we are right now carrying out our transmission bidding on least cost by the L1 bidder. So what are your views on continuing with least cost, traditional least cost approach as compared to the lifespan cost, because I have already used that right of way and is not used by anybody else now. So what are your views on, and how to bring it into the current system for the tariff based one?
Okay, thank you, Rajekar sir. First of all, when I was preparing, I wrote 1, 2, 3 lines actually. Doing it today may look expensive, but not doing it will be far more expensive tomorrow, economically, socially, and strategically. It covers ROW also. Rajekar Saab said very nicely, and Ananda Saab is very, very correct that ultimately the consumer has to be, what he is going to pay, that is primary. And definitely the regulator will look into that. Planner will look into the load generation balance. But the layman like me will look at, I need a corridor, when I go for, I mean, the layman in the sense that I did the transmission line construction a lot, and I know the pain of entering into someone's field, that how much pain he has and how much pain he gives to us. So to avoid that pain, we are discussing about the common corridor. Common corridor cannot be like this, that one line is there, you make another line in parallel. No. We have to think in a different way. Actually, we are today, again and again, we are discussing about what generation is there, what load is there. No, that is not the case. State, all states together and center should join hands and decide a corridor for transmission line. For everything, a corridor is decided. For most of the things, corridors are decided. The land acquisition is done. Wherever land acquisition is required, that is done. Wherever it is not required, it may be the government land, it is allocated. So once the corridor is there, then what Rojekar Saab is telling, that problem may not arise, because once the planner plans a transmission line, he has to define the corridor also, that you have to pass through this corridor. Like in Khavda, is a very nice example. 30 gigawatt evacuation is not a joke. But Khavda, everything, because it happened during my tenure as CO CTU, every bit of square meter was identified, that this will be consumed by NTPC, this will be consumed by Power Grid, this will be by Adani and the state agency. So everything was pre-decided and there was no problem. Within the Khavda zone, we could do it very nicely. Another thing I would like to add, that as far as another is telling, this common corridor is for the future, but it will meet the requirement of present requirement also. By my simple formula, that I should consider the total expenditure as 50% to meet the today's requirement and near term requirement, and the remaining 50% for future, 10 to 20 years, 30 years. The remaining 50% should come through VGF from state government and central government, and 50% only should be loaded onto the consumer. The first comer should not have any disadvantage of paying more. I bring factory today, I should pay today's cost only. Someone else is bringing factory after 10 years, he should pay after 10 years. I should not load that cost, because once you make the corridor, common corridor, the cost will be front loaded. Most expenditure will be done in the beginning. That should not penalize the first comers. So the VGF route has to be there, and the rest TVCV will be as it is. And corridor we have to define, so there is no question of shortcut.
I think you are very clear, very candid and categorical in bringing elephant into the room. The revenue department is look after her. So before I move into from planning to actually putting on the ground and the policy asks that are required from the that we are having or the experts are having in the mind, I would like Mr. Barwa to tell that given the increasing climate resilience requirement, the number of cyclones, the bad effect of or the ill effects of green gas and rising temperatures. So my question is, how should climate resilience criteria be embedded into the corridor design? That we are now agreeing that common corridor is required. Now, how to make it climate resilience is your thoughts on that actually.
Earlier, resiliency was only discussed in terms of the grid should be resilient, and nothing was coming on the policy papers. So 2 years before, we have included an manual on transmission planning criteria of Central Electricity Authority, that resilience should be considered while planning. And then one task force was also made by central government on cyclone resilient transmission distribution system, and the report was released in May 2021, that is available in public domain. So that report talks about what are needed in transmission and distribution system. Like if I talk about transmission, so they have recommended that up to 60 kilometers from the coast, substations should be GIS, obviously considering the flood level and other things. But most of the substations will be coming in that category after 60 kilometers. And then regarding transmission lines, many recommendations are there. We have to build stronger towers. We have to take one wind zone higher for considerations. We have to consider narrow base towers and the new conductors. And for distribution system also, they recommended that up to 20 kilometers, wires should be underground, means underground cables should be used. So these are already existing in the provisions. So all these things are there, and for other factors like high temperature or other type of climate related factors, I think we have to again discuss at different levels, and we have to come up with certain recommendations.
Okay.
I think that's
I would invite ma'am to say a few words.
Sorry to interrupt this beautiful flow, but I couldn't hold myself back. This is something which is absolutely the need of the hour, and the elephant in the room. I think the government feels that the elephant which is already in the room is much bigger. So the revenue, because as you talked of the other costs, and also if there is pain, I mean, we've all seen this when Power Grid, all of them, ROW, it has been and therefore the timeline also, Behra Sahab, that you said, we're certainly not looking as long as 2047. In fact, a sense of urgency, of course, our team from EPD is working on it. I think they have been working, and even at the highest political levels in our state, and so is the case in Delhi as well, there is a lot of alignment on the need. So the conversation is not about whether to do this or not. The question is how, and how fast, and how well. The quality also is a non-negotiable, keeping in mind all these facts that today you may have certain projections, certain generation areas, etc. So I think as an outcome of this session, it would be wonderful if we can, in fact, even as recently as perhaps last week, we had a meeting at the level of the Honorable Chief Minister in our state, where he did again remember this and said what has happened to the idea of a common corridor. And so you will have an important, because the central transmission utilities, Power Grid, I think it has to be a combined effort of all the players, PSUs and the private ones, but somebody has to make the start, and the state will have to be main stakeholders. So from our side, we would be very keen, the process of land acquisition or granting of land, and as you said, we don't have to sometimes, otherwise these are like what they refer to as, total wo circus ki tambu ki tarah lines, ek wire koi kahin se kheench raha hai. It also shows a very, not a very haphazard way. We I think ought to be a little more systematic, a little more sensitive to doing things in a slightly more disciplined manner. So, and it's a win-win situation for all. And aapne jo kaha ki even these multiple possibilities and also other utilities, so it need not only be restricted. While charity begins at home, the pain point is for us in the domain of energy sector. So we are starting with this, but certainly the idea of co-locating it, co-aligning it with other utilities. So I'm also wearing another hat. I work as the secretary of Auroville Foundation. So wahan par abhi city is getting made. So we are trying to co-locate, for example, our sewage, the black water, grey water, drinking water, electricity, OFC cable. We are trying all of that to be co-located, but we don't have the luxury in a brownfield state and city. If it's a greenfield city, you can still plan it that way. So I think what is being discussed sounds like music to my ears, but with the only request that perhaps if, with the help of all of you and the rich experience that you have, if we can actually come up with a plan for Gujarat, even as early as perhaps a few months from now, so that once it gets the seal of improvement, of course, approval, of course, none of this in that sense is etched in stone. A lot of things we know that as we go along, we may realize that perhaps suddenly there is a new area in the state which is becoming a power guzzler. So you need to have slightly, that is always a dynamic thing. You can never forecast everything very accurately. But I think somewhere we have to start. So I think this is a very good, the credentials of all the people here. We couldn't have dreamt of anything better than this. So if all of you can together help us, I'm just curious to know, are there other states in India which have already started this, working on this? And if not, I think Panditji, Gujarat must take the lead. We should, and it will be nice. And since there is a full political will, and I don't think resources should be a problem, because the benefit is much larger for everybody, even in monetary terms and even in the social, strategic, all those terms. And I'll take leave. I just wanted to appreciate this.
Thank you, madam. Thank you for giving so insightful words. And definitely it's a matter of pride for all of us to be here. I feel proud of being part of Gujarat system now. I have come here willingly and feel myself really blessed and lucky. And so probably all of you, those who are working in Gujarat area, definitely this is a great place to work here. None less than Honorable Chief Minister is thinking on this. And Madam conveyed me last week, and pre-discussion in time, I think we had the brief discussion on this part. And definitely, Madam, very soon we will make a report on this. And I am sure Gujarat will be a pioneer in this also. And जैसे माननीय प्रधानमंत्री ने रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी को गुजरात से शुरू किया था, फेसिंग ऑल द डिफिकल्टीज, स्टार्ट करने वाले को सबसे ज़्यादा पेन होता है. वी आर रेडी टू टेक दैट, क्योंकि हमारे लिए वो सबसे बड़ा एग्जाम्पल छोड़ के गए हैं. वी विल टेक दैट मैडम, और वी विल बी, गुजरात विल बी फर्स्ट इन कमिंग आउट विद दिस रिपोर्ट विद योर ब्लेसिंग्स. Thank you, madam, for joining here. I request if it is possible for you to continue for entire the session. That's a bit, but I can understand you have got. Thank you very much for joining and giving precious time over here. Thank you very much. Yeah, we will continue. We are really blessed. Madam spent some time here out of her very busy schedule, and we can take additional 5-10 minutes. Because I don't think there is so great hurry, but we may continue for another 10 minutes or so. Yeah.
I think we were at the midst of very interesting discussion and very thought-provoking things. Sir, actually, Nimbalkar sir, no, I think the better ones, yeah, Nimbalkar sir also, and Sharmaji and Akhilesh. What are the policy enablers you think, because you have the boots on the ground? We will plan, एक कागज नक्शा लिया, बनाया यहाँ से यहाँ parallel corridor है. You have boots on the ground. What are the policy enablers you think are the most important in realizing the dream of having common corridor? Like pre-notified stretches can be there. Statutory backing, what sort of statutory backing there should be for, and should like centralized right of way acquisition. What are or any other policy enablers that you are looking for realizing the dream of having a common corridor? I think one by one, three of you can.
सर, मैं एक ही पॉइंट रखना चाहता हूँ, वो मैडम के सामने रखना चाहता था. महाराष्ट्र में इस बारे में एक डिस्कशन हुआ है कि जो कॉमन कॉरिडोर है वो स्टेट बीइंग द लैंड बीइंग द स्टेट गवर्नमेंट सब्जेक्ट, स्टेट गवर्नमेंट ने अगर एक्वायर किया और उसका टीडीआर अगर लोड किया तो थ्रू टीडीआर प्रोसेस, जो हम लोग लैंड लेते हैं तो बिल्डर को टीडीआर देते हैं, तो वैसे अगर टीडीआर स्टेट गवर्नमेंट दे सकी तो मुझे लगता ये इजियर हो जाएगा स्टेट गवर्नमेंट के लिए भी और हमारे लिए भी. जो हमारा कॉमन, जैसे अनंता सर ने स्पेसिफिकली कहा कि मल्टीपल यूज़र्स है, जैसे हाईवे भी यूज़र है, रेलवे भी यूज़र है, पाइपलाइन वाला भी यूज़र है, तो इनके लिए अगर कॉमन कॉरिडोर एक्वायर करके दिया स्टेट गवर्नमेंट ने, जैसे हमने नागपुर टू मुंबई एक्सप्रेस वे बनाया है, बट नागपुर टू मुंबई अभी ट्रांसमिशन लाइन की भी ज़रूरत है, बट उस समय में प्लानिंग करते समय ये इंक्लूड नहीं किया गया उसमें. अदरवाइज अभी चीफ मिनिस्टर सर पालक मंत्री है गडचिरोली डिस्ट्रिक्ट के, और गडचिरोली डिस्ट्रिक्ट में पहले एक भी 132 केवी सबस्टेशन भी नहीं था। अभी वहाँ 400 केवी के 3 सबस्टेशंस हो रहे हैं। वो स्टील सिटी ऑफ इंडिया अगले 5 साल में उनका प्रोजेक्शन है। तो अगर 400 केवी का लोड वहाँ रिक्वायर्ड है, खावड़ा का इवैक्यूएशन भी नागपुर में आ रहा है HVDC से, तो वो लोड गडचिरोली तक कैटर करने के लिए जो एग्जिस्टिंग एक्सप्रेस हाईवे है उसका अगर मीडियन हम लोग यूज़ कर सके तो इट विल बी बेटर। जो पाइपलाइन यूज़ कर रहे हैं, जैसे मैं एक एग्जांपल देता हूँ, जैसे भी महाराष्ट्र में जितने भी जनरेशन के वाटर रिजर्वायर्स है वहाँ अभी फ्लोटिंग सोलर प्लांट्स यूज़ किए डाल रहे हैं, अभी प्लान हो रहे हैं, कुछ एग्जीक्यूट हो रहे हैं। तो वैसे अगर ये कॉमन कॉरिडोर स्टेट गवर्नमेंट ने एक्वायर किया और अगर TDR दे पाए वो फार्मर्स को, तो मुझे लगता इट विल बी बेटर आइडिया। जैसे टेक्निकल जो डेवलपमेंट राइट्स, ट्रांसफर ऑफ डेवलपमेंट राइट्स है वो बिल्डर को देते हैं। जैसे मेरा यहाँ खेती वाला यहाँ खेती नहीं कर सकता, हम लोग एक्वायर करेंगे तो कॉस्ट विल बी बेटर, कॉस्ट विल बी हायर, बट इंस्टेड ऑफ एक्वायरिंग द लैंड उसका जो TDR है वो फार्मर को मिलता है, क्योंकि यहाँ वो अपना घर नहीं बना सकता, यहाँ कोई कंस्ट्रक्शन नहीं कर सकता है। बट इतनी जो जगह है उतना TDR वो बाहर दूसरी जगह यूज कर सकता है, सेलेबल रहेगा वो।
I think, as I said earlier, two things. One is obviously once we are talking about corridor, it is about the land. He talked about something in Maharashtra which is TDR, where I think once a project comes there, he gets a right which he can sell off to somebody, and the same thing can be used elsewhere, probably. But that is model of one of the states. But across the board, when we talk about developing transmission line through a corridor, I think land being a state subject, the first thing would be how to enable availability of this corridor. That has to be built in. For transmission line, land acquisition is not provided in the Act as of now. So that thing has to come in. Provision of acquisition of land has to be brought in. That would require a change at the level of it will be a statutory change, because that way, since the land is going, this particular corridor is going to be used by multiple agencies. The cost is in today's terms, the benefits are in tomorrow's terms. So definitely that cost benefit analysis probably would be much beneficial to the owner. Anyway, so far as line compensation is concerned, even on today's rate, there is a lot of ROW compensation that is being paid. So right away acquisition, I think, is one thing which is required. And the second thing, as I said earlier in my earlier mention also, while bidding the projects, the right of way should be provided offhand, so that this TSP is not boggled down by the way of incurring initial cost, the front loaded cost which has to come by way of larger route. That should not be a pain point for him. It should be built in through the provisions of the bidding, so that even a longer transmission line route is acceptable. If we have to continue in the same TBCB model with the corridor. So both
I think Sharma ji would like to add something. Sir, इसमें just background बता दूं. What he has said is actually acquire TBCB developer should be given upfront right of way. We know that if you settle right of way today, tomorrow it is unsettled. So if I settle the right of way and give as a part of bidding, when you actually reach there on the ground, it is unsettled. So kindly keep that in mind when we say that. We are a democratic country. Everybody has got right to go to court.
Yes. I think very well said, Rajekar साहब. I think देखिए स्ट्रक्चर चाहिए, गवर्नेंस चाहिए, रेगुलेशन चाहिए, पेमेंट मैकेनिज्म, वो सब हो जाएगा. वो सब थोड़ा सॉफ्ट, थोड़ा हार्ड पार्ट है, वो सब हो जाएगा. बट सबसे मुश्किल है स्टेक होल्डर मैनेजमेंट. स्टेक होल्डर मैनेजमेंट इज़ द क्रस्ट ऑफ ROW. एंड कॉरिडोर का एक्वायर करना है तो भी स्टेक होल्डर मैनेज करना ही पड़ेगा. 2 किलोमीटर का 300 किलोमीटर के लिए स्टेक होल्डर वुड बी द की. So there has to be a very strong political will to make that happen.
I think you have hit the nail.
उसके अलावा
because many right of ways are at the places which are of influential people. So a very strong political will is required to resolve to the common right of way. You can continue.
Yeah. So I think the key is, uh, all of us know buying 100 acres of land for a substation, you have to settle at least 1,000 people. 100 एकड़ में 600-700 लोग होते ही हैं जिनका कोई जिंदा है, कोई नहीं है, कोई एनकम्बरेंस में किसी ने लोन लिया है. So it's all very difficult. So acquiring land, impossible. I think it has to be a right of use only. But the key is how do we handle the stakeholders well will define whether we'll be successful or will not be successful. And the stakeholder management ke liye, although internally we have written a book, but I don't think it will work here. It has to be a strong government support through the structures and the policies and the governance around it. That's the easy part. But handling the stakeholder would be the key, which is, sarpanches have to come on board, the MLAs will have to come on board, the entire political leadership have to come on board for a larger good of the country. And at the same time, I think you mentioned VGF, Garg Sahab ne bola, VGF ka kuch element yahan leke aaye, jisse ki the corridor remains available. The land still the owner still remains the owner only. They can do a list of things which are non-restricted. And I think that's the path forward. And as I said, I think existing corridor ko jara TBC में डाल के देखते हैं how is the, some experience will gain from there. But I can tell you from my experience of package F and G, if it was a single line, I would have done it in 18, 20, whatever months. Since it became combined 300 meters of corridor, एक बंदे के खेत में 2 टावर आ रही हैं तो वो तो आपको जीने नहीं देगा. And that's what we had to face every time. Eventually 28-30 महीने में बन रहा है वो project. But the stakeholder is key. How do we handle the litigations?
I thought somebody of you also talk about digitization of the land records.
Yeah, to a very large extent it is there.
Countrywide basis.
Yeah, Gujarat and Rajasthan have.
No, Gujarat and Rajasthan, we are talking of common corridor for India actually. So that is also a
I fully agree with him. In fact, strong political will is required for anything that we actually want to do. But I would not agree with the concept of still going with right of use, even if it is for 300-400 kilometers. I think right of use is something which is where we seek consent from them. We are paying them very handsomely. The compensation being paid today is very handsomely, but still the things are not resolving. And if you think linear acquisition of land is not possible, then highways would never be built, railways would never be built. They can be built, as I said. Since we are looking into transforming things, if these transmission lines are to originate and go across a corridor, my gut feeling is that we have to give it the same treatment, the same priority which is given today to an infrastructure project of national highway. The same thing has to come to transmission line as well, and maybe as we have discussed, this corridor can be used for congenial development of other infrastructure. Maybe line can be integrated with a highway and highway can be integrated with a line. When I say it is not possible to go along with a highway because the length becomes substantially high in many cases, B line distance is much shorter, along the highway it is much longer, but still we have to provide for coexistence. And if we have to come out of the pain, I think acquisition is one of the ideas which can be tested, which can be tried. Mere right of use, I think in case of a corridor would not suffice.
Okay, Ananda Sahab, sir, if we have discussed a lot about almost all the aspects. What institutional mechanism do you think will be, because we already have an institution called CTU, STU. The Act has asked us to be coordinating as one of the primary functions to do coordination. We are doing the coordination, but I think if there is still gap and we are still at the discussion point, then what institutional mechanism you think will be necessary to include more stakeholders? In fact, the stakeholders, what Mr. Sharma and Mr. Akhilesh is saying, are infinite actually. 140 crore हिसाब का हो जाएगा, which is very difficult actually. So what sort of institutional mechanism you think can make the entire idea work?
Sir, from the electricity regulatory perspective, there should be a common pool of all the stakeholder involved in a particular corridor, as well as Central Commission under the aegis of Forum of Regulator. From the electricity point of view, this mechanism will work perfectly. From the planning point of view, CEA will be required at the initial stage of planning, and then for implementation, rest of the planning to the execution level as well as to the operational level, the regulator will come into picture. From the land acquisition point of view, a special body can be think of, which includes the revenue department of states involved as well as the electricity regulators and center regulator. I think these two can join hand in materializing this aspect.
So as per you, no new institution is required. The existing institution should be asked to enforce the common corridor issue.
No separate new institution per se from the purview of Act is not required for materializing a corridor for particular length of line. But of course, under the Forum of Regulator and Forum of Indian Regulator aegis, a temporary institution which can take care of all these aspects as well as the involvement of respective state government can materialize this thing.
Barwaji, what do you think of regulator going into planning domain of the?
In my opinion, regulators' job is to protect the consumer aspects, like what are the tariff, what are the things have been considered while implementing the system. But for planning perspective, it's the responsibility of CTU and STU and overall coordination of CEA to see why this transmission system is required. And the Act also provides under Section 38, Section 39, Section 73 and Section 3 also. So to see how transmission system should be planned and what are the stakeholders, those need to be considered. So transmission schemes are planned in consultation with all the stakeholders according to these provisions. So once system has been planned, it is approved by the government, then it goes for implementation. And then when it is going for implementation, at that time, if regulator comes that this planning is not in planning, has to be reviewed. So I think that should not happen. Because
to avoid that, I think what you are trying to tell is that there are existing planners at CA level, at the STU, CTU level, already mandated by the Electricity Act under various sections of 73 and Section 3. So we can we think of a task force which can dedicatedly work for common corridors to start with, and that can give a way that how it should be done and how it should not be done, so that if I implement one or two corridor, I will learn along with that, and as Madam has said, it will be a dynamic exercise, and we can still have a chance to improve our things.
yeah, so once we identify that in this area some common corridors are required, or multiple lines will be required so that we can club into one line of multi-circuit or something. Then after identification of that, if it is in the same state, the STU can see those things. If it is coming for interstate and interstate together, so then the CTU and STU in overall coordination of CE, I think that can be handled properly.
Fine. I think in this regard, I would also like to add as a panel member, when we visited your IPD pavilion, I was shown that you are going to have a 60 gigawatt addition by 2030, and at the same time, I being in CTU know that about 53 gigawatt has been planned in Gujarat area. So we are talking of 120 gigawatt, almost 110 or maybe 100 gigawatt almost. So we have Khavda 1, 2, 3, I think 4 also. 5, 6, 7 is under planning. So why can't this 60 gigawatt of yours and 53 gigawatt under ISTS be a starting point, and Gujarat being a pioneer state, not fearing to take bold steps. I think this should be a real good example for us to start work on that. And we have almost discussed all the pertaining aspects that are associated in the common corridor, climate resilience as well. So I think if all of you want to have last words, or can we have questionnaire session from the audience, so that we also come to know what are their views about what the views we have explained. I think we can take questions, and I would request that the esteemed or the person who is going to ask kindly introduce yourself and pose the question to. You can ask to the entire panel, or you can ask to a particular person also.
Pandey sir, what Rojikar sir was telling ki 60 gigawatt or something you want to add by 2030. Is it the state or including the ISTS connected one also? So your plan is 60 gigawatt? No, that 30 is already there, 40 is already there in Gujarat. So now you are talking about additional 60. Additional 60 is state and central city. Both. The remaining 60 will also be both?
No, the remaining total 100 would be added. 100 would be. I know, I also discussed this. You will reach 200. So we will come from about, say, today's 21, 22 to 65. So we will be adding not exactly 60, but we will reach to something like 65, 66.
Yeah.
Put together ISTS plus.
No, even the numbers can be worked out. I am open that actually with the MNRE, we can include SNA of Gujarat, MNRE and CA and CTU also. We can. Right. I am sorry. Otherwise, I would. But still, your views are so important, and I would like you to also say something before we turn to the audience for questions.
In the meantime, anyone who wants to ask.
No, but the courage and thinking ability of having a common corridor. Gujarat rocks actually.
Myself, R.R. Ghatale, Executive Engineer, JETCO. Sir, I agree with Anuradha sir and Avinash sir that we should coordinate with other utilities other than power sector. My view is that should we think over the existing national highways, can we utilize them from sir, I think sir has already given one example from Pune to I think so can we think about that?
I think Mr. Bairwa has worked something on that, and he will be the right person to answer that question.
So actually I was working in a committee for the transmission assets along with highways. So the existing national highways, it's very difficult because the land near to the highways is almost this is costlier. It can be used for commercial purpose. So getting ROW in that area is much more difficult. But for the national expressways, access control highways, city bypasses, where the land appreciation is not much, because this road cannot be used by those peoples. So there it can be think of. But again, the issue is our transmission lines generally goes the straight lines or B line we generally see. If we try to come along with expressway, then goes along with expressway, then again goes to or substation side, it may lead to the lengthy transmission lines. But again, my personal view is that we have to see where we can use this opportunity, we have to use.
I think Sharmaji also had said something about the other day when we had discussed earlier on that. Your experience of using the highways?
Yeah, I think 6-7 months ago we did an exercise whereby 9 upcoming bids we wanted to analyze if we can use an existing road median for this. I think it wasn't coming out to be very feasible at that point of time. So we actually had a discussion with the minister as well, Gadkari साहब. He said कि आप use करो इसको. Then we said कि technically फिर we went back and said कि हो सकता है कि फिर हो नहीं पाया उसमें. So then we left it. Yeah, median or close by. The number of crossings where you take off, where you move out, and the area that you have to leave for safety purposes. So it wasn't coming out. But when you are planning a new highway, probably that's the time where it can happen. Now I have a question for Bhairava Saab, if you allow me, sir.
Yeah, please.
When the BPC route is out, at that point of time, can we not keep it to a corridor at the time of planning? And make it mandatory. Currently it is not mandatory. And this has been my experience on FNG, where BPC gave a route and that route could not accommodate the Supreme Court's direction of bringing another line which is within 100 meters of that existing package G. So can you make that mandatory in your planning exercise?
And because of the ROW compensation, presently it is not passed on. So it has to be included by the bidder in these bids. If we decide the corridor, then we have to also give the what compensation we have considered, and then an additional compensation, because that may come in the way. So additional compensation, the bidder may ask that whatever the route you have identified that has much more compensation what you have considered, and presently there is no mechanism. So I think at present, considering this idea may not work, but if we have certain provisions of that passing on of compensation, additional compensation, I think then it is may become feasible.
सर शर्मा सर ने राइटली कहा है. अभी हम लोग एक छोटा एग्जांपल देता हूँ. नासिक में कुंभ मेला है जो जुलाई और अगस्त 27 में होने वाला है. उसके लिए स्टेट गवर्नमेंट प्लान कर रहा है कि नासिक का रिंग रोड बनाए, आउटर रिंग रोड बनाए. तो उस रोड के मीडियन में उनके पास, जैसे बरुआ सर ने कहा कि रोड का जो एक्विजिशन है वो बहुत रिस्ट्रिक्टेड है, बट उसमें भी हमने ओनली 1.5 मीटर उनका मीडियन यूज़ करके 1.5 मीटर का ही मल्टी सर्किट मोनोपोल यूज़ करके हमने डायरेक्ट ड्रिलिंग टेक्नोलॉजी यूज़ करके उसमें प्लान किया है ताकि कुंभ मेला का जो पावर सप्लाई है वो भी डायरेक्टली मिड ऑफ द सिटी तक जा पाए. तो सर ये न्यू टेक्नोलॉजी अलॉन्ग विथ मल्टीपल स्टेक होल्डर्स ये हमें प्लानिंग में इंक्लूड करना पड़ेगा, तो ही मुझे लगता है ये पॉसिबल हो पाएगा.
इसी चीज़ को मैं थोड़ा ऐड करना चाह रहा था कि एक्चुअली हम अगर इन जनरल ट्रांसमिशन प्लानिंग की बात करेंगे तो रोड इंफ्रा कैन नॉट बी यूज्ड, क्योंकि अगर मैं लग्जरी चाहता हूँ कि मेरा शॉर्टेस्ट रूट हो ट्रांसमिशन का, और वो सब तो नहीं हो पाएगा. अभी हम गुड़गांव में देखते हैं या किसी और शहर में भी देखते हैं कि they are facing ROW problems, so they are using the meridian of the road. They are putting the narrow. Right now, work is going on in Gurgaon area. I mean, huge requirement of electricity. They are making multi-circuit 220 kV lines with narrow base towers. What you are telling, Sharmaji is telling, and Nibalkar Saab is telling, ki go beyond na. Don't go for 20 meter base of the tower. Why don't you go for the 1.5 meter base? Cost will be double, maybe triple. But ROW's importance has to be thought of. Ki it is not directly what compensation we are paying for ROW, is the indirect cost of that area is tremendous. So using the road meridian is a viable solution for future road also. Even just 5 meter extra acquisition is not going to make a big difference in the compensation, but that should be allocated for the meridian should be allocated for transmission, whether being used or not.
इनफैक्ट इतने सारे वर्ड के कम वर्ड्स में कहेंगे, स्टील यूज फॉर हायर वेट टावर डिप्रिशिएट ओवर द टाइम, एंड द लैंड दैट इज यूज फॉर पुटिंग द टावर appreciates with the time. So we have to consider. Therefore, I had asked one of the question about life. In fact, lifespan costing versus the traditional approach of least cost planning, least cost approach. Anyway, some other question from please.
Hello. Myself, Harsh Upadhyay from 220 kV Vitessa, JETCO. Honorable MD sir and all the higher dignitaries. जैसे आपने कहा कि फ्यूचर कोस्ट को देखते हुए यदि हम अभी से 220 kV की कोई लाइन है या 400 kV की कोई लाइन है, सब स्टेशंस को सर कन्वर्ट करना काफ़ी इजी रहता है, ताकि रिले को हम अगर चेंज करें तो हो सकता है, लेकिन लाइंस को चेंज करना काफ़ी मुश्किल रहता है. अगर 220 kV लाइंस, जो भी 220 kV का सब स्टेशन है या 400 kV का सब स्टेशन है, उसमें हम सर 3 फीडर भी अगर एक्स्ट्रा रखें, एक 765 फ्यूचर की इनकमिंग और आउटगोइंग लाइन के लिए और एक 765 के ट्रांसफार्मर के लिए 760/400 के kV के, तो सर इससे भविष्य में जो भी टावर भी हम डिज़ाइन करें, शायद वो शुरुआती दौरों पर थोड़े महंगे हो सकते हैं, लेकिन भविष्य में अगर हम उसका ROW का आप जो जिक्र कर रहे थे गर्ग साहब, कि उसकी कॉस्ट अगर हम पहले से ही फार्मर को पे कर देते हैं, तो इससे काफ़ी सर हम भविष्य के अंदर भी हमारी सिस्टम को अपग्रेड करने के लिए कोई इनिशियल ज़्यादा एक्स्ट्रा स्पेस की ज़रूरत नहीं रहेगी.
करेक्ट, आई एग्री, योर कमेंट्स आई एग्री. डू यू हैव एनी क्वेश्चंस ऑन दैट?
सर इस विषय पर क्या प्रावधान किया जा सकता है?
अभी तक everybody has agreed on that actually. Yes, what you are, it makes sense actually, it makes sense.
ताकि सर शुरुआती दौर से ही हम भविष्य का प्लानिंग कर सके और किफायती दौर पर.
आई एग्री. इनफैक्ट सबसे पहले किसी टेक्नोलॉजी पे काम करना है तो माइक की टेक्नोलॉजी पे करना बहुत जरूरी है. कहीं पे भी नहीं काम करते हैं, ऐसा नहीं कि इनकी गलती है, और भी कहीं नहीं करते हैं. हाँ, regulator has to take a liberal approach. Okay. Yeah.
Sir, you have rightly mentioned in between jet, okay, what will we adopt, least cost or some higher ways? क्या हम ऐसा कॉरिडोर, क्या हम ऐसा इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर डेवलप कर सकते हैं जो 50 साल के बाद यूज हो? All the dignitaries are at the highest level, directly connected to the government, and I can say they can implement or design the regulatory schemes that can be implemented for the other people. तो क्या हम ऐसी इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर डेवलप कर सकते हैं जो 5-10 साल के लिए या एक स्टेट के लिए नहीं? वो आपने मेंशन किया नेशनल एसेट, ये ग्रिड है जो नेशनल एसेट है, तो उसके लिए हम ऐसा डेवलप कर सकते हैं कि वो आज जो सबसे सस्ता दे रहा है उसको अपनाने के बजाय ऐसा कुछ करें वो 30 साल तक वो हमें कोई सिचुएशन फेस कर रहा है. इज इट पॉसिबल?
It is possible.
If it is possible, how we can implement it?
अभी हम क्या कर रहे हैं, अभी भी तो सिस्टम जो प्लान कर रहे हैं वो अभी 10 ईयर्स अहेड का लोड देख करके कर रहे हैं, और उसमें भी ये आगे तक ये सर्व करेगा. TBCB में सिस्टम देते हैं वो 35 ईयर्स तक चलना चाहिए, वो हम इंश्योर कर रहे हैं. 35 ईयर्स तो चलना ही चलना है सिस्टम कमीशनिंग के बाद से. प्लानिंग में हम लॉन्ग टर्म प्लानिंग की बात कर रहे हैं कि लॉन्ग टर्म में सिस्टम सस्टेन करना चाहिए। बहुत सारी लाइनें हम अभी भी ऐसी प्लान कर रहे हैं जो 400 के पर प्लान कर देते हैं, हमको पता है आगे 10 साल तक इसकी रिक्वायरमेंट 400 की नहीं है, लेकिन आगे आएगी। अगर प्लानिंग हमारी ठीक अच्छी है तो हम 220 के पर ऑपरेट करा लेंगे, बाद में उसको 400 के पर चार्ज करेंगे, उसके बाद भी वो आगे तक चलेगी। तो इस टाइप की प्लानिंग हो रही है, और इस चीज़ को हमें जो प्लानिंग हम कर रहे हैं उसको हमें डायनेमिकली रिव्यू करने की ज़रूरत है। डायनेमिकली रिव्यू करेंगे तो हमको और क्लैरिटी आती जाएगी। तो लॉन्ग टर्म प्लान बनाएं, डायनेमिकली रिव्यू करें, तो इस चीज़ को आराम से हम हैंडल कर सकते हैं।
So I think we have overused the time. 4 बजे तक का था, 4:30 हो गए. But still I would instead of I wrapping it up, I think some words of wisdom from Pandey sir will be highly appreciated.
Sir, last question, sir.
Okay.
Sir, myself B.S. Barolia, Deputy Engineer, शेटको सुरेंद्र नगर। जैसे कि हमारा लैंड एक्विजिशन का सबसे जो 1 कॉरिडोर का हमारा सबसे बड़ा क्वेश्चन है लैंड एक्विजिशन, जो हमारे एक्ट में नहीं है, वो एक्ट में लाने के लिए, उसका करेक्शन करने के लिए बहुत ही GRC, CRC और गवर्नमेंट वो सबसे बड़ा हमारा चैलेंज है। और वो चैलेंज में अभी क्या है कि फार्मर ऐसा बोलता है कि मेरी खेती लायक ज़मीन कम हो रही है, उसमें तो चली जाएगी, अभी कम हो रही है, उससे उसको दिक्कत है, उसमें तो चली जाएगी। तो जैसे कि एक हमारा नेटवर्क है, ट्रांसमिशन नेटवर्क, उसके जैसा ही एक सबसे बड़ा नेटवर्क है इरिगेशन डिपार्टमेंट। इरिगेशन डिपार्टमेंट जहाँ पे पानी है वहाँ पे लोड बढ़ने वाला है, या इंडस्ट्री या एग्रीकल्चर, तो हमारा लोड सेंटर है वो वही है जहाँ पानी है वो है। तो उसी जगह पे जो उसका ही कॉरिडोर है, कुछ ऐसा संविधान करे कि उस कॉरिडोर का यूटिलाइज दोनों करे। जैसे कि उसका कैनाल बनता है तो उसका 56 मीटर का कॉरिडोर होता है और उसका स्पेयर उतना ही होता है, तो उस स्पेयर में अगर वो हमको 10 मीटर भी दे या कुछ ऐसा एग्रीमेंट करे तो हमारा सबसे बड़ा नेटवर्क उसी में चला जाएगा और लोड सेंटर में भी रहेगा, और उनका भी सबसे बड़ा जनरेशन और पंपिंग दोनों लोड उनका भी है।
I think agreed. Sir, I think we can wrap it up with words of wisdom.
थैंक यू मॉडरेटर साहब, दिलीप रोजेकर साहब, गर्ग साहब, बैरवा साहब, अनाडा साहब, अखिलेश पाठक जी, निम्बाड़कर साहब एंड अरुण शर्मा साहब. I really thank you all. As such, vote of thanks would be given by my colleague, but I could not really resist myself in conveying you big thanks to all of you. This discussion had been interesting. First of all, I really enjoyed sitting over there. Probably आज से 40-45 साल पहले कॉलेज में बैठा करते थे, तो वो it reminded me those wonderful days. आप लोग शायद कुछ पहले समय तक बैठे होंगे, काफ़ी लोग जो थोड़े यंगर हैं शायद थोड़े साल पहले बैठे होंगे, बट इट रियली टुक मी टू दैट नोस्टाल्जिक टाइम. और आराम से बैठ के सुनने में, पढ़ने में जो आनंद काफ़ी साल पहले आता था, आई रियली एन्जॉयड दैट अगेन. और इस जयंती रवि मैडम ऑल्सो ज्वाइन इन बिटवीन डिस्पाइट हर एक्सट्रीमली बिजी शेड्यूल, शी मेड अप इट, और कुछ समय के लिए यहाँ पे देखेंगे. दैट फर्दर एनहांस द ग्रामर ऑफ द प्रोग्राम एंड मेड इट मच मोर इंटरेस्टिंग. जो डिस्कशन है probably if permitted may continue till tomorrow morning, but there has to have some limit, so we had to conclude it. और थोड़ा सा मायूसी जरूर है abruptly बंद करने में, but still it had been interesting, and I am sure through this forum intermittently we can have some kind of, we can continue this kind of dialogues, maybe through VC or through some forum to take it forward. And as I have promised to Government of Gujarat that we will be a pioneer in the country to make this concept, and I am sure we all together will work on this and will take it forward. कुछ एक दो छोटे छोटे थे subject I thought of sharing with you. I mean delaying it further just couple of minutes. जो ट्रांसमिशन प्लानिंग होता था, that was generally 5 years. I do not know, probably it was planned with 5 years plan. जैसे 7-12 मुझे याद है, 12-17, 17-22, 22-27 और 27-32 इस तरह से चलता था. गुजरात में इंटरमिटेंटली कभी हुआ होगा, कभी था भी, बट देन आई केम हियर विद ग्रेट प्राइड. आई जॉइन दिस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन. I didn't find it existing there, so we planned 22 to 32 10 years planning, taking that same 5 years plan, and we came out with a 10 years perspective plan 22 to 32. My colleagues sitting here with me, they are aware of it, and we made a very ambitious, good program. When Government of India made a target of 2030 related to various activities in this sector, we also aligned that 32 to 30, slightly preponing some of the things or some of the things shedding off, and we made it to 2030. And then that is in place, that is on record. And then we made plan for 2035 also, when Gujarat state would be celebrating 75th years of statehood. So for that also, and then in 36, when India would be hosting Olympic here in Ahmedabad 36. So aligning that also, we have planned our transmission requirement by 2035. And we are in process of finalizing 2047. So with this working, I was feeling I had done a great job, but then after sitting here, I realized probably I still far away from 2070, which is being discussed here. So probably now we should, when I go back, I should start working on 2070 also. That is really a need of the hour. Arun Sharma sir, particularly you spoke on this, and collectively our STU team and we together, we definitely should start thinking for 2070. We should not remain complacent to think for such a now I don't think 2047 के planning के लिए हमको we should take big pride. We should plan for 2070, which panelists here conveyed. Thank you for sharing such an important thing. एक point मुझे समझ में आया, I will take it up further. Existing corridor को हम TBCB में we can start doing that. I presume, मैं बैरवा साहब से भी मैं consult कर लूँगा subsequently and my technical team also. I understand over an higher voltage transmission line, probably we can place lower voltage transmission network over that. Maybe some strengthening will definitely be required. Gujarat is a state where we have very large 66 kV network also. There is a big gap between 400 to 20 and 66. So probably conveniently we should be able to place the 66 kV network on that existing corridor. Nevertheless, I would need to consult CTU, CEA and technical our team there, and how it will be done, we'll see that, and if possible through that we may come out very quickly a TBCB package on such existing corridor, or otherwise also in the state we are planning to have TBCB scheme within this financial itself, or maybe slightly here and there. Sharing another couple of things which we were discussing. Only on starting of this new year, we have finalized an order of placing monopole tower on road divider. So I wanted to share this pleasant thing there. It's a small portion there we have placed. And then someone was talking, why not to think of higher voltage level line when we are creating a lower voltage line. Couple of months back, rather in August, we awarded a package of 400 kV line, whereas need today is only for 220 kV line. Vataman Dholera. Garg Sahab was there when we started planning on this, and then subsequently Rosekar Sahab took it up. We need 220 kV line initially for 3-4 years, and thereafter we would be requiring 400 kV line. So we have awarded contract of 400 kV lines. We are in fact creating exactly 400 kV line Dholera Vataman. That work is under progress, and a few foundations have also been cast. This is how 2-3 things I wanted to share. And then when we are talking about common corridor, we can think of smaller sections of corridor also, like specifically forest areas. Getting repeated clearances over there is a pain. Difficult terrain, laying transmission line on river crossing, valley or difficult terrain, that kind of thing. There are so many such kind of difficult things. One of them has already been captured. Places near to substation, that is also a pain point. We are also trying to do that. We have made a policy of 2 kilometers now. I think looking at Maharashtra, we should also think of say about 5 kilometers or so. Such smaller section of corridor can also be thought of. And for that probably no very big thing is required. Even STU, even JETCO or together we can think of that. and I am sure regulator will be magnanimous enough to consider that cost. Maybe a smaller cost only, because STU, when we create first line, that time itself we should lay 4 transmission lines or 4-5 circuits or multi circuits or many more than that. What had been done by Power Grid in Chicken Neck area while taking power from northeast part to mainland of country, because Chicken Neck area is, I understand, only 22-24 kilometers, something like that area, 24 kilometers only, from which so many linear projects had to pass, roads had to pass, railways had to pass, gas line, and then multiple transmission lines. So that time itself multiple transmission lines were laid. So we need to identify such critical areas wherein when we lay first line itself, we should create multiple lines in the beginning itself, creating convenience for future. So not only bigger corridor, we can think of making small corridor, and not only corridor, create infrastructure probably for that. And thank you very much for joining here. I thank participants also. I request BM Shah Sahab to have a formal vote of thanks. Thank you all. Thank you.
Just want to add one line, sir. Upendra Pandey sahab, thank you so much. I think every generation is known by the infrastructure it creates for the next generation. I think we should actually, do really good for the next generation.
थैंक यू पांडे साहब, आपने सब कुछ बता ही दिया. मुझे वोट ऑफ थैंक्स का इतना बोलने का ज़रूरत ही नहीं है. फिर भी एज अ टोकन ऑफ ग्रेटिट्यूड वी वुड लाइक टू प्रेजेंट अ मोमेंटो to each panelist in recognition of their contribution and valuable insights to the success of this discussion. I request Srimati Hiral Jani and Avni Sangvi to present the memento to our panel, our moderators and speakers, panelists. Please. Laila. Nissan, please. Nissan, please join. And sir, last, we appreciate the efforts of the team from Index TB and Marwadi University in ensuring that everything runs smoothly and efficiently. Your support and cooperations have been invaluable to us, and we are grateful for your contribution to the success of this event. Thank you, Index TB and Marwadi University, for your hospitality and for making this event a memorable one. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much, sir.